So speaking of tools, I imagine you had a lot of work where you had to figure out, okay, how do we spend up the technology for finance and FP&A? Because you're splitting off, and I'm sure there were different tools that made sense to use now that you're your own company versus what Johnson used. So talk a little bit about that. How did you kind of work through that process of just the
Yeah.
whole technical transformation?
Yeah. I think this changes like these give obviously to an organization the opportunity to also rethink the tools that they need and that they want to use. And I think it was very clearly part of the process to understand how can we set up our systems, our ERP system up to success that we afterwards are stronger and fit for purpose, have a fit for purpose tool and a stronger company. So that was very clearly part of the roadmap. Also, what kind of reporting tools you need versus what you used to do before. It is for sure very difficult to do everything at once. I mean, just alone ERP project for a company not in this situation is a very difficult one. But do that together, that makes the challenges tremendously bigger, right? So I think that's very important from my perspective for companies that are going through this process to think that side of the equation very strongly from the beginning and plan that in throughout the process from the beginning, because in the end life goes on, and in the end you need to get, and competition doesn't sleep, right? So you need to be coming out of this process able to run fast, right? And cannot wait 1.5 years and then pick up where you were before. So really important to have that part in. And obviously that gives then another change to the organization. But managing that right, I think that's, if you have like change, you can combine it, right? Then you can also use the benefits of having changes in multiple areas and combine that, so that might even ease then the pain a bit and make it more successful.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm sure there's opportunities to make processes better now that you're getting to select your own software and do things in a way that maybe you thought should have always been done, but didn't make sense in the prior company because you needed new technology to do it, or just because of the parent company's priorities, whatever it may be. So
you can also sort of do that. You can also have then a chance to cut through like legacy systems, or we do that while we always did it. We didn't touch it, right? I think these kind of things exist in any company, right? But this really gives you the opportunity to tackle those of them, really think through. We do it like this. Is that really the right way? Or is now the time to change it? And that's for sure a strong opportunity that companies should let.
Yeah, I would imagine for FP&A, or kind of in general, I know you're on the transformation, but for an FP&A team, it would be an incredibly challenging, exciting, and probably stressful time. A lot of hours of work as you're now trying to redo all your reporting to meet the new company's needs. You're changing some of your budgeting and planning process. You got a whole new organization, sometimes new people you're supporting, but there's the excitement of, hey, we now get, different investment. We can focus on just this business. We may not have to hear all the time, no, that doesn't make sense. We're focusing on other priorities. So, what are the opportunities for FP&A time like this? Because I imagine there's a lot of opportunity to kind of stand out and shine in this if you're committed and passionate. So what do you see as those opportunities for FP&A people when this happens?
I very clearly think that FP&A can play a very strong role in that, right? I mean, with all that you mentioned, and also that the business continues, right? And by running those changes, right? And that's where FP&A can be very strong with the right support, mindset, help. And I think where very strongly FP&A can help is on the one side to explain to the organization what all these kind of things with the financial acumen and the background, explain why is it helping. So what are the good things about the painful work that we're going through, right? What is the outcome that will bring, or the financial benefit, and what will leave us better off afterwards, right? So that's certainly one. And I also think that it's a very strong opportunity for FP&A to rethink their structure and overall finance in an organization, to think through how do we want to be set up afterwards, right? How do we combine different finance functions in a better way? How do we cut through silos, for example, that might have been there before, right? And combine it. How do we also maybe integrate FP&A thinking and financial thinking mindset even more into the business so that they have a stronger financial standing, right? So I think all of this can be very powerful, and I'm really convinced that finance, FP&A has a very, very strong role in this, not only to manage it through, but really to shape the organization for a better future afterwards.
So what would you tell somebody after having gone through this twice? I know you worked with this, not just Johnson & Johnson. If I have someone listening in FP&A and they're getting ready to work on a divestiture or spinoff, is there one or two pieces of advice you would give them that you've learned through this journey?
Yeah, from an FP&A perspective or from a finance perspective, really have the new company in mind right from the beginning. So make sure that this is being worked through and considered in the planning and preparation from the beginning. Because, I mean, as we talked about this, there's a lot of distraction, many things that need to be worked on. And it can happen that it's actually rather easy that you then rather focus as an organization on those things that you definitely must do, like you're getting your accounting right, getting your compliance right. And in that, I would say it's very important for FP&A to make sure that what FP&A stands for, consider that directly throughout the process as well, right? And fight for that, make sure that the setup is considered throughout the way, that you come up strong afterwards. To that, maybe also, I think what is my learning generally, I mean, consumer goods is a very rather small margin business in comparison to fund, obviously, right? So there's a lot of more savviness and financial focus needed to structure your P&L and your cash flow, right? I think that's also very important to have that throughout the process in mind. There are many one-time costs. There are also many standalone costs, right, that come with these kind of processes, where you have, for example, a new function that you didn't have before, or an efficiency that you had before that's no longer there, right? I think that's also one advice that I would give to anyone working in finance, had that in mind throughout the process. How do you shape the organization that at the end you don't have to go into through big transformation, but try to build that in directly from the beginning to make sure that also once the process is done, the organization is really state of the art, is very efficient and really fit for purpose and able to run on its own leg.
Sounds like everyone is really think of not just the technology, not the process, but think of the company, think of the strategic, always kind of thinking what's best for them, for the company as a whole, and look at this as an opportunity. Sounds like, because it's easy to think, oh man, this is just something I have to deal with, versus an opportunity to come out better on the other side. And hearing that makes it sound like, a huge part of this comes down to mindset during this type of time, which we talk about. So maybe talk just a little bit about kind of the mindset you need to have for a project like this.
The mindset in general, I mean, the can-do attitude. That's so important, right? I mean, we talked about the elephant, right? I think can be overwhelming, right? But turning that into positive, into visionary thinking, into understanding the opportunities that are behind, that is, I think, the important point, to be prepared for it and to get motivated and energized. I mean, just the idea of having a new company, how often does that happen, right? But the idea of being part of that and having a chance to, even at a small scale, shape that and frame that and influence that, I think that's certainly the mindset that helps you to be very motivated to engage in.
Sure. And I would imagine a company, I mean, one of the biggest spinoffs we've had, Kenvue, I mean, what you guys spin off as is, I know, billions of dollars in revenue, for sure.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the brands you listed are not small brands.
It's a 15 billion company worldwide, right? So it's a huge company, Fortune 500 company, and a very strong player, right? And that once in a lifetime opportunity that many of my colleagues certainly had.